Page 65, Cockles and Mussels. On page 64, they're covering a little more information about chords. Just to cover a little bit of it, again, we're giving you a few more bits and pieces to the picture. I think I've already talked about a triad. A tri means three, as in tricycle or triplane or tri whatever. 3 notes. And we already talked about it. It's every other note. They're intervals of a third. Major chord, a C major, it is a major third and a minor third. I don't know that we've had major and minor yet, so maybe I'm jumping the gun on that. I can have a triad built on any note of the scale. So C major uses the white keys, and I can go here. That, yeah, I can do that. They give examples there. It's just, and there's ways of identifying these. We'll get into that a little later. I kind of wish they'd tell you now, but they're not, so I'm going to keep it a secret for a while longer. Just know that you can have these triads and they can be built on any note of the scale. Because it's like in a C, we've had the F chord, which is actually, if you put the C on top, it's an F chord. See, it has to be in this arrangement in order to identify it, because it's the bottom note that identifies it. So in an F chord here, it's hard to identify because you got 2 notes here. That's not in that arrangement. So if I put the C on top, now it's in that arrangement. Now I can identify it as an F chord. And the G7 is a little more complicated because it's there. I won't get into that right now, but there's a way of, it's built on the G chord. It's built on. Now they're saying triad vocabulary, it should be memorized. I do it in my head. I don't memorize it. I can picture this keyboard in my head, and I can say, what are the notes in an A chord? And I can go A, C, E, because I can picture the keyboard in my head, and that's how I do it. I don't memorize all that. Ugh. Forget that. And that got me through music theory in college just fine. I could calculate it real quick every time I needed it. So I'm suggesting you memorize the layout of the keyboard, and that way you can figure these things out in your head real quick. It takes a little practice, but you can get good at it. Now at the top, they're calling it the root, third, and fifth. Let's talk about that, because it is kind of important. The root, let's go back to C major. The root is the starting point. It's also known as a tonic. Different names. It's the root. It's the note that identifies the chord. It's the root of the chord identifies the chord. That's why it has to be in this arrangement, because if I rearrange it like here, the bottom note is this note, the E, but that's not the root. But the chord is not arranged right. It's got 2 notes here. I can't have that, so I've got to be here. The third is talking about the step number in the scale. In a scale, you have 1, and this is an octave, and each one is numbered. It's based on the interval. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Those are step numbers it's in the scale. So I could go to step 5, step 6, step 2, step numbers. And that's what they're referring to here. The root is step 1, the third is step 3, and the fifth is step 5. So 1, step 3, step 5. The 1, the third, and the fifth. It's just different ways of saying the same thing, but you need to be familiar with all of them, because you never know when someone is talking or reading something which way they're going to use. So you need to know that. And that's what this is. Works the same way in any chord. The root, third, fifth. Root, third, fifth. Root, third, fifth. Root. Whatever. Now that's different than steps on a scale, but I was taking each one as the scale. Here. And here. And here. I already told you I don't teach the other modes, and yet when we do that, those are actually the other modes. So let's keep it simple. C major, root, third, and fifth. We'll build more on that a little later on. In Cockles and Mussels, so the left hand for the most part has these chords. The first full measure, this has a pickup beat. Forget that. Just first full measure, it's a C chord. It's tied to the next measure. You're going to hold it down. And the next time you have this D chord. Next is an E chord. And then an F chord. Third line down, you go, or the last measure of the second line, it would be a G chord, except the D is in the right hand. Well, it is a G chord then. You're just not playing it all in the left hand. And then you go back down to C, then D, last line, E, and then F. You're only using 2 of them. It's not a triad, and then G and then C. So we're using several of these different chords on page 64 in this piece on page 65 in the left hand. It's nice. It's harmony. It just gives different colors. And the right hand gets the melody with a pickup beat. It's a 3/4 time. So it's the pickup beat is left hand. That's melody. Then the right hand gets it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. And that's pretty much the rhythm once you get that part. It's got phrasing. We'll lift up between the phrases. There, the first line, connect this, and then lift up, go on. Lift up, go on. Now be careful there because the words are above the line. If you look at the last note in the first line, it has the I. That's a letter I. It's not a 1. It's not a finger number. It's the letter I, it's I for the word. So just stay in this position in the right hand. You're fine. So play that D with second finger. And do that. And so lift up between the phrases. In the right hand, the left hand is just doing its thing with the chords, but you have quarter rests and you need to play the quarter rest. You got to lift up so we get a silence. So in the first line, in the middle of the line, when the right hand has that C, it's by itself. The left hand has to be resting. So it's the second full measure. So lift up with the left hand so that C's by itself. You got to move the left hand anyway, and this gives you a chance to do that. So be careful with these rests to make sure you're getting them all in. There is a retardando at the bottom, the last 2 measures, so when you're playing it, and it's a fairly slow piece anyway, but you're still going to slow it down. So the last line, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Just slow it down, and then the fermatas at the end, you're going to hold those out a little longer, whatever you think it should be. With a metronome, I'm just going to hold that quarter note in the left hand, 2 counts instead of 1, and then lift everything up. Now, this arrangement has a problem, typical of piano arrangements. When people doing the arranging aren't paying attention, it looks great the way they've done it, but it has a problem in playing it. It's unpianistic. Look at the very beginning. You have a pickup beat, and then here. You should connect those. You can't connect them, because that G, the pickup note, is used in the chord. And in order to play it for the chord in time, I have to get off of it early. Just a split second early. The problem is that split second separates it from the C. You get that. That's not connected. Yeah. What you can do, since they've got pedal at the bottom, and I don't agree with pedaling it at the end. There's no reason I can see to pedal it there. But if you want, you can pedal at the very beginning. Pedal the first beat, this beat, and this beat. Connect them with the pedal, because you can't connect them with the hand. So you push the pedal down right after you play the G, and you lift it up right after you play the C. All you're doing is connecting those notes. That's it. It's the same thing at the end of the second line, going into the third line. It's the same thing. You can pedal that one beat from here to here. Pedal that, and that's it. And that's what I recommend. I'm not going to show it. I described, you experiment and try it. If you have a teacher, they can show you. But it's just that one beat is all you're pedaling. I do not recommend you pedal it at the end. I don't need all those overtones flowing around when I'm dying down. Now that to me is totally opposite of the effect we're after. Let's try this out slowly. Now if you want to do it one hand at a time for a while, that's great until you get it. But then we can try it both hands together. It's a moderately slow piece anyway, but we're going to take it slower than that. So you're in C position. throw out most of this. I mean, the left hand's going to move around because the chords, but you're starting out here. If you want to pedal it, put your foot on the pedal and be ready to go. I'll give us 2 counts because we got a 1-beat pickup. Ready, go. And 2 and 3. And 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 3. 2. 2 and 1, 2, hold off.